It has been a while since I made any big investments in terms of photographic equipment, but that could be about to change. I'm out today with a camera setup that I've got on loan to try, and if I like it, I'll buy it, probably. It's actually Micro Four Thirds. I have the OM Systems OM1 Mark II. I have 3 lenses. I've got the 7-14 f2.8 Pro. I've got the 12-100 f4 Pro and the 100-400 f5 to f6.3. So why this particular setup? How have I got it to try it out? And what will I think of it? Well, keep watching to find out. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you do, and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe before you go. So I've come out this afternoon to El Fondo Natural Park because it's going to offer me a wide range of options to shoot. Wildlife, maybe a bit of landscape and maybe some other stuff as well. I'm going to start off with the 100-400 lens and try and get some wildlife images. And I'm not expecting to get any masterpieces. This is about trying this gear out. But first, let me just answer one of those questions that I posed, and that is, how have I got this kit to try out? I just want to say this is not a paid promotion. I've not been sent this gear in exchange for doing a review. This is a program that OM Systems run called Try and Wow, where you can basically get them to send you kit. They will ship it to you. You keep it for around 5 days and then you send it back. It doesn't cost anything. You don't even pay transport costs, although you do have to put down a security deposit, and there are some conditions, particularly around things like how often you can do it and how much kit you can actually have. Now that means that if I decide to buy this kit, I'm not going to be keeping this stuff. This is demo stuff. I'd have to order it. But regardless of whether or not I decide this is the right kit for me, I think it's a fantastic program to give you a chance to try things out. As I said, I'm going to start off with a bit of bird stroke wildlife photography and see how we get on. So why this particular setup then? Well, quick bit of history for those that haven't been around the channel for the last few years. I used to shoot with a high-end, in its day, full-frame Nikon DSLR, the D810. I had the appropriate high-end full-frame lenses. I had the Canon M50 and a couple of lenses for vlogging. I had filters, I had batteries, I had all of that other stuff I had to carry around, including a couple of tripods, and I shot with that for several years. But there reached a point when the weight of the gear I was carrying started to cause me problems with an old back injury, and I had to go lighter weight. I bought a much smaller, much lighter video setup, and I temporarily decided to use the Canon M50 as my stills camera because I had it already, and until I decided what I really wanted to do, it seemed like a good idea. But that was about 3 years ago. And to be honest, I've enjoyed photographing with it, and it's done everything that I've asked of it pretty much, and I haven't really been able to justify to myself upgrading. But recently I've started to think about what possibilities upgrading the camera system might open up for me, particularly as my photography has changed and evolved over the last 3 years. I did think that some of the technological advances might be useful for me. Things like better autofocus, because the little Canon M50 is great for static subjects, even in low light. But as soon as things start moving, it does struggle a little bit. And for wildlife, it's very, very hit and miss. Better image stabilisation. I do love shooting handheld, and better image stabilisation would extend the range of what I can do handheld shooting, longer exposure times. But actually the thing that really intrigued me was extending the range of the focal lengths that I would have available, because I love to use focal length as part of my creative process. And that's what really intrigued me. With my Canon M50 lenses, I can go from 11 to 200mm, which, if we convert that to full frame terms for standardization, comes out at about 18 to 320. And I've always felt that I'd like to be able to get a little bit wider without resorting to a fisheye lens. And I've always felt that, particularly for wildlife, a much longer focal length would be ideal. So that's what I really wanted to get out of, an upgrade to a camera system. All of the technology stuff was, kind of an advantage, but maybe not the major thing that was driving me. But the caveat was I had to keep the weight down as low as possible, because I don't want to be in a situation where I am, buying gear that I can't use because I can't carry it around. Now, I considered and dismissed going back to full frame. I was sorely tempted with something like a Nikon Z8. It looks like a lovely camera, but the lenses just make it too heavy to get what I want from it. APS-C, well, there's a couple of nice APS-C cameras around that I was considering, and in fact I'm still considering if I decide this isn't the right setup for me. Things like the Canon R7, there's a nice combination of lenses with those that would work, and also the Fuji, the X-T5. But then I got really intrigued by the idea of this Micro Four Thirds system, both because of the size and weight, but also the additional features that these cameras have in them, the computational photography, things like live ND, things like a graduated ND, all in camera, high resolution mode where you can get 50 or 80 megapixel images. There's all sorts of interesting possibilities there on this, and price wise and weight wise it's probably the same or less than the APS-C cameras that I'm looking at. And then when I discovered this Try and Wow program, I thought, well, I've got to give it a go. So here I am. Incidentally, this camera arrived about 4 hours ago. I've mostly charged the battery. I downloaded the manual, which is 342 pages, because of course I haven't read it. Just had a look enough to work out how to tweak some of the focusing modes. And at the moment I've been shooting the birds here using the bird detection focusing mode, and from what I can see on the back of the camera, it's doing a superb job locking into them. Of course they're quite slow moving, so you'd expect it. The birds flying over now. Can I get them? What if I turn the camera on? I mean, they're going to be small in the frame, but good test to see what they come out like. Now, I decided to go for this particular collection of lenses because of the focal length range it gives me. 7 all the way to 400mm. Now, because this is a Micro Four Thirds, the full frame equivalent field of view on that is 14 to 800mm. And I've been shooting around here at 400mm, which is the equivalent of 800mm. And I'm actually finding it really easy. I mean, I shot with my old Nikon D810 with a 150 to 600 lens on and actually struggled to get sharp images. But this seems to be doing well, although I'm only seeing the images on the back of the camera. I won't know for sure till I get them on the computer. There's an egret sitting on a branch out there, and I think at the extreme end I might be able to get some shots of it. The sun's getting lower now, so nice opportunity to get maybe some kind of golden hour shot, some nice light on this walkway. Playing around with the 12 to 100 at the moment, and I'll go over to the 7 to 14 a bit later as we approach the sun disappearing completely. Probably won't hang around too much after that, simply because there's no clouds around and I've got no tripod, so if it gets into the blue hour it might be more of a challenge, and that's not what today's about anyway. Not as much wildlife around here today as I thought there was going to be, whether that's to do with the weather, because you may have seen in the news you've had a lot of heavy rains in Spain, and although this area has been spared, there's been some dreadful flooding in places like Valencia, which you've probably seen in the news, and maybe that's had an effect here. There's a lot of mud in this lagoon, which is unusual. It's normally a bit cleaner than this. So realistically, evaluating this camera setup and whether it's going to be right for me, there's 3 things I need to consider. First thing is portability. Is the weight of this stuff going to be too much? Is it going to cause me back problems? And my gut reaction from this first outing today is no, it doesn't seem to be too bad at all. It's a lot heavier, particularly when I've got the 100 to 400 lens with me, than my little Canon stuff, but it's a lot lighter than my old full frame stuff. So, it kind of feels okay weight wise, but I'm going to get out and do some more with it over the next few days. The second thing I'm interested in knowing is, what's it like to shoot with? Is it enjoyable? Is it fun? Does it make me want to take pictures? And based upon what I'm seeing today, yes. Particularly doing the wildlife, it's been a real revelation for me, with the subject detection turned on, silent shooting mode, the fast frame rate. So yeah, from that point of view, definitely. Whether it's going to be quite as enjoyable for some of the other stuff is difficult to tell, but so far it seems to be. And of course the third thing is going to be image quality. And that's the one I can't really evaluate right now. I've got to get the images back on the computer. Of course, this is a smaller sensor than I've been shooting with, even with the M50, and less megapixels. But the advances in technology and the better lenses will hopefully mean that the image quality on this is, it may be better than I've been used to getting. And it may not be noticeable just in a normal view or even at 100% view, but what we might notice is improvements when it becomes necessary to push the processing a bit more, or indeed if I want to enlarge images for larger prints or for larger viewing, which I don't do very often, but be interesting to see how they compare. So I'm going to do a second video next week for you. It'll be a couple of days for me, where I will do some more photography, talk a bit more about the specific lenses and why I've chosen them for this evaluation, and also I'll have a look at the image quality of the images that I've shot today, and I may well have got a few more that I've shot in the meantime. So don't forget to tune in for that if you're interested in seeing that. I am going to stick a comment kind of in text now which will just be an initial reaction to the image quality once I've got them back on the computer. You know, probably just a few words to give you an idea, a hint. But if you want to get my full evaluation, that'll be in next week's video. Sun's dropping lower. I'm going to put the wide angle on and see what we can do with that. Don't forget to tune in next week for some more photography with this camera setup, some more details on the specific lenses and why I've chosen them and what I'm thinking of them, and my thoughts on the image quality that I'm able to get with this setup, and probably whether or not I'm going to buy one. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, likes, shares and comments are always really appreciated, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe if you've liked this. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch, so thank you very much. And until next week, bye.